So these three albums, this one here, this one, and this one. What do you think these all have in common? Do you perhaps have any of these albums? Have you heard any of these albums before? Well, these three albums have something in common and probably say more about my photography than anything else. I was reminded about one of them in a recent Twitter post. A music magazine was listing the albums by this artist, Robin Trower, listing the albums of his that you should own, the top 10 of his releases, in other words, many of which I do have. But this one was listed as one to avoid. Do not get this one, not his best, apparently, and therefore give it a miss. It's slated by the critics then, but also by the fans, it seems. Same with this one by Mr. Eric Clapton. Not regarded as his best and usually comes at the bottom of any top 10 list. There's a different sound to this one compared to the others, produced differently, Phil Collins actually, and has a late 80s sound to it. And I probably don't need to say anything about this particular Metallica album. If you know, you know. I may, just may, be the only Metallica fan that likes this album. No, really, I'm not kidding. But this Robin Trower album is actually my favourite album of all time. Absolute favourite. The Lulu album is my favourite of all Metallica's releases. A desert island disc for me then. Every track is perfect. And of all the Eric Clapton albums, this is the one I play the most. And I could say the same about this album and even this one. Panned by the critics and hated by most fans too. Everyone seems to hate them. But I love them. So what does that say about me? That I have bad taste maybe? I'm a bit deaf? Or do I just go with my own taste? I like what I like. I'm not influenced by others. My taste does seem to differ to others in many cases. I hear things differently perhaps, and maybe that means I also see things differently too. So maybe if I was describing my photography, describing why I shoot what I do, how I see the way I do, maybe I would relate it to these music choices. Am I perhaps just broadening my outlook? Am I just more accepting to certain things? Do the popular albums that everyone likes and usually comes at number one in these lists bore me a little maybe? Too mainstream? Too middle of the road perhaps? Not diverse enough? So I'm not saying that to take pictures like me, you need to love the Lulu album, although the track Mistress Dead is pretty amazing. But liking this album over, say, the popular Black album does say a lot about my tastes and therefore my photography and its approach, I think. Simply as I'm looking at things differently. Everyone else is saying these albums are rubbish, terrible, worst thing they have ever done, but here's me appreciating the album, understanding their approach and perhaps hearing their sound taken in a new direction, in a good way. It's my favourite artists just being a bit different. I can relate to what they were trying to do on these recordings, but that's what I want to do. I want to be different. I'm not after being popular. I don't want to photograph so-called pretty views, which are more popular. Everyone seems to like a nice colourful sunset, except for me. Not shooting sunrises and photographing benches rather than beautiful views doesn't make me popular though. These may not win me fans. My images would no doubt be slated by the critics, just like those albums. But that's not what I do photography for. That's why I've never entered a photo competition. I don't feel I need to have my work judged, not for approval anyway. Others may say my work is dull, boring and not colourful enough. It seems I shoot dull subjects. Except they're not dull in my eyes, because I'm seeing a beauty that maybe others don't. These images I take may be Beyond the Mist rather than Bridge of Sighs. They may be Lulu rather than Master of Puppets. They may even be behind the sun rather than slow hand. My work may not hit the spot in the popularist view, but maybe it's not me whose vision is blinkered, but instead yours. So as far as colourful sunsets or pretty views are concerned, I do appreciate them. As a photographer or an artist, I do see the beauty there. Hey, I've even photographed one or two myself before. But in most cases, I'm just happy to look at them and admire them rather than grab my camera and capture them. Any image I did take would no doubt just end up looking like everyone else's. Where's the fun in that? It may do well on Instagram, but that would be a short-lived high that doesn't really spur me on in any way. Instead, I want to find pictures that inspire me, views that challenge me to discover them. That perhaps may take more effort and vision. I want to take pictures that I enjoy, but also ones that perhaps challenge others' ideas. I'm using all the usual skills of composition and exposure, just like everyone else, but just applying that to different subjects and views. Though occasionally I'm not doing that either, because those rules can make some images a bit dull, and this needs experimenting with too. I reckon when Metallica collaborated with Lou Reed on the Lulu album, they knew they were being divisive. They knew it would split opinions. They probably knew that most of their fan base would scoff at it as a project. Or maybe the hate for it actually surprised them. But they did it anyway. It was a project that had a different approach to everything else than they'd done before. But at the time, they must have felt it was the right thing to do. Still do, I hope. What I don't get is the reactions from the fans. It's still their favourite band, but most hate them for doing it. The music may be different, but it's still music by the musicians that those fans love in every other way. Can you not appreciate it for that? Metallica are loud and noisy. On this album, they still are. On this album, Metallica sum things up perfectly. Do whatever you want to do, what everyone else thinks. So I listen to odd music, or bad albums by otherwise great artists, it seems. Now, to take great pictures, you don't have to listen to the same. You don't have to listen to the Lulu album, but you can be different. You can go with your own vision. Do what you want to do. Find something that isn't what everyone else shoots, perhaps. Find the beauty in that. Find your own path and see where that takes you. Or you may just love shooting those same scenes that many others do. But whatever your choice of subject or view is that you point your camera at, just make sure it's the right one for you. Forget how that image will do on Instagram and just let those that do appreciate it give it a like. That's enough. Otherwise, you may be finding that doing what everyone else does or photographing what is popular is not helping your photography. Instead, the answer to your next great picture is shooting something completely different. Now, the other answer to your next great picture is, of course, my E6 subscription, or my online photography courses, or my photography workshops, or even my photography ebooks. Beyond YouTube, I'm here to offer you a variety of ways to improve your photography. I'm not offering you tuition that everyone else does. I don't want to do that. Instead, this is my unique guidance, which I hope is the answer to your next great picture. Check out my website to see all that I offer, and I'll see you next time.